One of the biggest levers for boosting profit without adding extra jobs or extra hours, pricing. In this session, you'll learn how to truly understand your costs, build pricing that protects your margins, and raise your rates with confidence. If you've ever wondered whether you're charging enough, this is your session.
My name's Tyler. I am with Go HVAC out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I started in the HVAC field when I was 14 years old and kind of worked with my dad every so often, and I actually took over in about 2023. And for the past 2 years, I've been growing the company a little bit by a little bit. And that's where I am now. I mean, I'm super pro, trying to grow it as much as I can. How about you, Amber?
My name's Amber DeLong. I own DeLong & Sons HVAC with my husband out of Shoemakersville, Pennsylvania. We're about an hour and 20 minutes north of Philly. We've been in business since April of 2021. We started it. He got tired of working for other people and having the same headaches as a business owner. So it started as a joke. We woke up one day and came up with the idea of DeLong & Sons since we've got 2 kids. And here we are almost 5 years later, and I now have 10 employees. Both of my kids go out in the field just like you did when you were a kid, and we're slowly growing as well.
That's awesome. Man, to hear the place that you're at makes me excited for where I'm going to be, especially since we've met when I was in the spot where I just had 1 employee and we just started talking. And then at this point I have, other than myself, I have 7 employees. So just the things that you can do in a year is very impressive.
And being able to turn a profit and price things accordingly is what helps you get to grow your business. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, 5 years ago when we started, we certainly were not pricing jobs properly. Even now, today, yet we still struggle every now and again, including the right type of stuff in your pricing. So what are some things you put in when you're thinking of pricing?
I mean, literally everything. When I first started, I didn't put any of the office staff prices, like anything that paid for office staff, office equipment, computers to run the software itself. I mean, I didn't put any of that because my thought was, okay, it's the part and the time to put the part in. And then the rest of it I thought was supposed to figure itself out. But I think I've realized that now you have to include literally everything that you have. Include the vehicles that you pay for that drive on the road, the insurance, everything over your year is going to be priced into your price that we do. I mean, we do flat rate, so it's a lot easier that way, for my opinion. So it literally everything that you have.
Flat rate makes things so much easier. You know what you're charging your customer, especially if it's not you going out, if it's one of your employees. If you're running off of a flat rate system, everybody knows what that pricing should look like. And you're incorporating all of those costs that you just talked about when you are doing a flat rate model. Not saying that time and materials is wrong, but sometimes you can very easily forget things like your overhead and some of the other expenses that you might have that you might not include when you're setting up something like a flat rate pricing model.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the best thing that I've done in the past year, especially getting people in the field, is doing a flat rate price book, because I was going out to the field, I was learning as I was going, and I didn't see the business owner side until 2 years ago, so I didn't know all of these things. But the flat rate pricing, it allowed me to stop having as many phone calls from the field saying, hey, look, how do I price this? Or, hey, look, what do I charge for this part? Or what do I need to include in this job? Because now on my line items, I have, this is the description of what's going on, this is what it includes, this is the warranty and guarantees, and then additional notes for it. So my installers, my sales guys, all of the people inside the company, my office staff, they know what's going to be in that job to where they don't have to call me for anything. And with time and materials, they do have some people that can make that work. There's plenty of companies that can. They have price sheets where you have, this is how much the materials are, and this is how many hours it's going to take me, and that's what they use, and that's great if that's what works for you. But for me personally, flat rate was the best way to go, because less phone calls on my hand lets me grow my business instead of
Us too.
continuous.
We started flat rate right out of the gate. He had come from working for other companies who used a flat rate pricing model. So for him, it was just second nature. But we also have the Profit Rhino price book now, which has really increased our profits quite a bit. It took some getting used to because we had to finagle some of the labor times to make them accurate, because I think they were trying to charge an hour and a half for a capacitor, when in our market that just wasn't feasible. So we had to go in and make some adjustments that way. But having a pre-built price book saves you so much time and questions and phone calls, as well as giving you the ability to easily job cost something. I know I personally job cost every single month. I try to job cost every single job every single month, breaking it down: materials, extended warranty costs, labor costs, overhead, so I can finally look at that number. And when I look at my net profit, I can then go back and look at and figure out why we either were not as profitable as we should have been, or why we were extremely profitable. Did one of my technicians finish a job in a half an hour that should have taken him 2.5? Saved us on labor. So I go back and I job cost every single job that we did that month.
You have a lot more time on your hand than I do, I will say that. If I had the opportunity to do that to show where we could improve, I would. It's a very powerful tool to know everything about your numbers, to know where you're losing money, where you're gaining money, where you're most profitable at. I don't have that detailed of numbers that I know. I can tell you on a month-by-month basis. Sometimes when it gets to the slower season, I'll go back through my year and look at them, and I'll find problem jobs and say, oh, I know this job was something, so let me see what happened there. But I 100% agree, knowing if something takes a little longer, because you could put, like you said, the industry average nationwide for Profit Rhino was an hour and a half for a capacitor. But some people, that includes their time to diagnose it, that includes the time to go get it and all this other stuff. But for some companies, it's 25 minutes, because all you'd have is it on the truck, you throw it on there, and it's already built into the price. So your efficiency will definitely change based on where you are. You have to make sure that you know all of that stuff and change it as you grow.
And that's the great thing about flat rate too, is your technician can finish that job however fast he finishes it accurately, and you're still making money because you're basing that service off of a specific labor time. And if your technician is more experienced and gets it done faster, then great, you're making extra money. If your technician might be close to that hour and a half labor time, you're still making money at the end of the day, just maybe not as high as you would like to.
So you said you're using Profit Rhino now. How did you start, or where did y'all come up with y'all's price book when y'all first started?
It was a very long, tedious process that we did not have down right, that's for sure. We had tried creating a price book completely ourselves, but as somebody, neither one of us had a business background, so we were just kind of winging it. And when we started doing some job costing and taking some of the business courses, I realized that our pricing structure was way off and not accurate, and we weren't including some of the things. So we ended up, eventually we did use a pre-built price book through a company called Tradewinds. And that was a really great foundation for us to be able to get profitable. Once we got profitable enough, we added on the Profit Rhino. But then since we had that pre-built Tradewinds price book, we were able to easily go in and adjust labor times because we had figured all of that out when we did the Tradewinds price book.
Hey. I mean, it definitely works for a lot of people. I was curious how you came to your price book, because I mean, for me, I came into a company that was already built for 20 years, but it was a one-man shop. He didn't do things with everybody in the office to help him. He was answering the phones while in the attic. He was doing all of this by himself. So he didn't have a fancy smanchy price book. It was literally one line for the description, what it was, and the name. And it was, what we found out is, especially during COVID, the price for everything skyrocketed. Everything. A condenser motor went from $75 to $150, and he didn't have that in his price book when I came in. So what he was charging for a condenser motor was almost what we were paying for it. And he was like, I can't pay people to save their lives. I can't afford to keep these technicians in because they're not being efficient. But he was getting 10, 12 calls done in a day, and these guys are only doing 3 to 4. But your pricing has to be right to where you can pay the guys to do the job. They can be thorough. They can do all of the things that they need to on the job, but also to where you can make a profit. I mean, we're in this whole thing to make money. I mean, we're not here to be a charity. There are some that are, but we want to make money. We want to be able to afford to take care of your kids, bring your kids to do great things, bring your family. I mean, I brought my wife to go somewheres this year. We went on our honeymoon on a Carnival cruise, so it was amazing. Yeah. But I would not be able to do that without pricing ourselves right.
Correct. I mean, when we started, neither one of us had a business background at all, so we really just spent the first, I'd say, 1.5 to 2 years absolutely just winging it. And when I would say when I left my full-time job about 1.5 years into owning the business, I was like, something's not right here. Profits don't look the way that they should. So I took a business coaching course through our supply house. It was a crash 2-day course that they ran you through everything that you should know, but it was so quick and so just skating the surface that I still, leaving that class, didn't feel like I had an understanding. So I started using business coaching by House Call Pro. And I will say that that was probably one of the biggest turning points in operating our business, in getting profitable, because they educated you on fully loaded labor rates and how to calculate those labor rates. What is overhead versus cost of goods? What your target cost of goods should be. I know when I do my job costing, my target cost of goods is definitely higher than business coaching would like, but that's because I've developed a relationship with my supply house that I'm okay paying, a little bit more to maintain that relationship. So I took the business coaching for probably about 2 or 3 months. I did the foundations course that they had, and then I moved on to profitability, and that really helped me make sure I was setting the proper labor rate, billing everything properly. Don't get me wrong, we still have some pricing things that we need to overcome, but as my husband steps away from being in the field a little bit, we are able to really iron that out, because now we do have a solid team of guys who understand our goals, our vision, and gives us the opportunity to work a little bit on the business side a little bit more than being in the field.
No, there's so many things with that I just, pricing it's so broad of a topic, and so many people don't understand their pricing. And I actually did take Conquer. I was in the middle of when it went from Conquer to House Call Pro business coaching, and I 1000% agree. It definitely showed me where my numbers needed to be. And it's not like they give you a handout and it's like, hey, look, this is what you should be doing. This is how you should think about something. This is what you should be thinking when your profits are going here or when they're going here. This is how you should be handling situations. It's other people, me and you, would be like in a cohort together to where we can talk about things ourselves without our coach. Yep. Or with our coach. And getting your pricing right with that is insane, because we went from, so I'll actually share, we went from in 23 when I started taking over in October. I looked at the books and everything. We had I thought it was calculated at 10% profit margins. Going into Conquer, they showed me I was at 2% profit margins. Now, still turning a profit, but not turning a profit because I was taking $1,000 a month for pay. I didn't have rent because I'm 23 years old. So I lived with my dad. I did all these other things to save money, but eventually I got married and I need money to pay for a house and all these other things. So I wanted to grow in my position as well as my company. But when they showed me that I was at 2%, I was like, I can't take a higher pay. And yeah, it is.
It's very eye-opening when you have somebody sit down and educate you on what profitability means and gross profit versus net profit, where those numbers should be, what you can do to improve your profitability. And as a business owner who didn't understand that going in it myself, I enjoy educating people on what worked for me. It might not work for everybody, but it works for us. It's still an ever evolving process. Pricing, I feel like, will never be perfect, especially in the world we live in today. But having an understanding of what you need to do to get there, eventually you'll get there. And whether that is increasing pricing, changing your pay structure for yourself, or taking, owner's draws, like profitability courses, made me understand what all those, I would have never known what an owner's draw was had I not taken a profitability course to understand what that was.
So a lot of people think that pricing is all about what your number is, being the highest price, but that's actually not the best thing to do, because you want to be the most lean, mean machine around. You don't want to have the highest price. If you do, that's not a bad thing, but you need to provide the value for that price too. That's one thing that I definitely did not understand before. This year has been the biggest kick in the butt as far as pricing goes for me. Me and you talked about, like I said, I met you earlier this year. You've taught me so many things, and then going through Conquer as well, putting all those ideas together and then learning things on my own, I've realized that the value has to be there. Customers don't want to buy just an AC system. If they wanted to buy the cheapest AC system, they would go to Joe Schmo down the road. They wouldn't care who puts it in. They wouldn't care how it's put in.
Or if it's sized properly.
Exactly.
Or any of the important stuff that goes into it. We really drive home that we're a family-owned and operated company, and we really stand by those family-operated values. I treat every single one of my customers as though they are family. Our slogans actually let our family take care of your family. So we might not be the cheapest priced, but I know we're also not the highest price in our area. And one thing we don't do, which not everybody's going to agree with it, is we only recommend things that actually are broken. Yeah. Sure, it might cut into my profit that I'm not, having an average $3,000 service ticket, but I wouldn't want somebody walking into my house and telling me that I need this, that, or the next thing and don't actually need it. So my husband came from a company that was one of the higher priced in our area. So for the longest time, his goal was to be the lowest price in our area. Yep. And between business coaching and working with our sales representative at our supply house, we found an even keel there where we're middle of the road pricing, because we don't want to be the cheapest. We don't cut corners. We buy really good equipment. We install really good equipment. We have a really great team on our hands. So why should I be the lowest price? That's not the right mindset to have. I don't want to be the highest price because I don't want to turn customers away because they don't like the pricing. So finding that sweet spot in the middle is really important, but that doesn't happen overnight. And it is a ever-evolving process. We're still dialing in our pricing. We're still working on our mindset. My husband and I, sometimes we don't see eye to eye on our pricing, because he wants to be a little cheaper, whereas I want to make sure we're covering the cost of our overhead, our payroll, our cost of materials. So whereas I see the numbers a little bit differently than he does, we have to figure out how to dial that in and work together. And we're this close.
I'm actually in the same boat as you. I mean, like I said, I came in taking over from my dad, and he was the person, he's the same thing as your husband. He wants to be the lowest price person around. And I've gotten it to where he's not wanting to be the lowest price, because I've shown him some installs from the lowest price people. I've shown him what an A player is that we could afford at a certain time, or a B player or a C player in my eyes. And whenever I showed him what we could afford if we charged a little bit more, he decided to swap over to getting that, because having someone you can trust to show up on time, having someone you can trust to do the jobs the way that you want them done, to be able to do all of these things, makes me and him want to be a little bit priced higher than the other people around us. Like, I had a guy tell us that we were $1,000 more on and some duct work that we quoted him on, And he was like, well, can y'all go down to that? And I looked at him, I said, look, I cannot. And he was like, why? I said, well, we're gonna have better quality than that company does. We're gonna make sure that our techs are drug tested and background checked before they step before they step into your house. And then we're also gonna make sure we seal everything up. We use USA made products, they last longer, and they have a longer warranty than what that other company will provide. And the guy looked at me and he said, look, I'm going with the cheapest price. And I said, that is okay. And then I went over to the next house the next day, and they said the same thing. I went through the whole spiel, and I got the job. But on that job, it was a full system with ductwork, and I was $5,000 more than the other company. But it was the value that I provided for that customer.
Sold what you wanted to sell. You didn't back down from being able to sell the equipment that you wanted. You showed the customer the value that your company offers. Like us, when we do a new equipment install, we include a 1-year free maintenance contract in that equipment install. And I would say roughly about 75% of those new equipment install customers end up re-signing up to pay for their service contract a year later. So that is a whole separate animal in itself. The things that you can include in your pricing that sells the value of your company, but then in addition will eventually become revenue producing. Just like, I mean, we have, I believe, right around 300 service plan customers. And the one thing we do with ours is we have an annual price and a monthly price, but we try to push that monthly price because if you're taking that person's money for their service contract every month, you have a constant stream of revenue coming in. So where some people like to pay annually, we added some extra benefits into our service plan to push people to pay monthly. So we're getting that income on a regular basis.
Yeah. How did you? So for pricing and profitability, do you price for profitability on your service plans, or do you price to get in the door and have your profit from the services that you have?
It's a combination of both. Some of them, where we live, we do a lot of oil. I know down south you said you guys don't deal too much in oil. So our oil service plan, we have priced for profitability just because of how much time they take compared to gas or electric or AC. So some of those other ones, we have them priced a little bit more towards just getting in the door and being able to find something wrong with the system. But like I said, we also have quite a few customers that are new equipment installs that we go back out just to give them the peace of mind that everything's okay.
I was just curious how you think about those things, because some of these business owners, they don't understand, look, I need to think about this part for profit. I need to think about this part for getting in the door to get the profit. Some people think, so for our stuff, we have 3 different plans. We have a 1-year, a 3-year, and a 5-year plan. For the 1-year plan, it's for people who are just trying to try us out. It's $30 a month. I price that to make a profit. They get 10% off of revenue, or 10% off repairs, all these other benefits. But the 5-year plan, it's priced at $20 a month. That is not priced for profit.
That's always fascinated me. Like when we share some of the different documents and stuff that we've come up with, the way you have your service plans has always fascinated me. In how many customers do you have that sign up for that 5-year plan, would you say roughly?
Out of our service plan members, I would probably say about 75 to 80%.
Really?
Just because it's such a low amount, and what I tell them, again, the value for the customer is there. What I tell them is, if you plan to move within the service area within that 5 years, we will do our best to transfer that over. If you are outside of the service plan, we're not going to charge you the service fee or all that other stuff. Like we're going to work with you because we're family owned. It's the value that we talk about all the time. You have to make sure that you provide that for that customer, because if not, then it's not going to be there. They're not going to pay it.
Now, how did you get into the profitability mindset? Like what clicked one day that said, I need to figure my pricing out and get it straight?
In 2024, in the beginning of 2024, I had a shoulder injury, or I say shoulder injury. I did something in the gym and messed up my shoulder to where my muscle was tightening up and I couldn't lift units above my head. And then later that year, about April, my knee swole up like the size of a softball. So I could not go into the field. And when I sat there and I looked at my dad, who I told I was going to get out the field within 2 years, I told him that. Within 6 months, I was on crutches. So I needed to hire somebody in. I could not pay somebody what I was making because, again, I didn't have all the rent or the mortgage or anything like that everybody else had because I was younger. And so I looked at everything and I said, this has to change. And so I started doing my digging. I started the House Call Pro business coaching and started talking to people, doing my own research, and found out the mindset that I needed to be in. It wasn't really about what do I need to charge for this, because what do you need to charge for that is gonna change, like you said, all the time. When you grow, it's gonna change. You grow, you have more overhead to a certain point. Then when you start growing from there, your overhead will stay the same, but your revenue per head or revenue per employee will go up. So then you don't have to charge more for that. If you have just, there's so many things we could talk about as far as profitability and pricing, but you have to think of the mindset as the whole shift. You can't just think about what do I need to charge, just because you will feel terrible for charging what you have to charge to run a business. Because a lot of people think a mom and pop shop is a business, and it's not. It does get you through, it gets you to where you want to be at in certain instances, but if you want to help provide for your community and help provide for the people you have in your life, then you have to be able to price yourself right, because you're not going to have a never-ending stream of jobs coming in ever. One of the biggest things that I've ever been told for pricing, profitability, or even the business in general is don't charge for the company you have now, charge for the company you want to have, because then you are able to grow exponentially and grow to the company that you want to have, because then you won't have to be in the field. You won't have to stress about doing all the admin work, all the bookkeeping, all of every single job. You can hire people and, again, build your community up and do those things because you're charging for the company that you dream of, the company that you lay your head down and think, that's the one that I want to run.
And you have to be willing to change some of your processes, procedures, or even your own mindset to be able to reach that.
Now, one of the biggest mindset shifts was from when to hire, when to fire. Now, I know we'll have another segment on the hiring and hiring and all that stuff, but the biggest mindset shift was when we used the Conquer or the Business Coaching by House Call Pro profitability sheet, because I did have the time. Again, I went through last January in 2025 when we were slow. I went through my whole slow jobs, everything like that, and I actually did job costing on each problem job, is what I will call it. A job that should have taken a technician 2 hours to do by himself took him 8 hours to do. And I didn't know about it because it was never brought to my attention. Going back and finding these jobs and doing this on top of everything else, I've found that when you price yourself for profitability, it's not just, oh, look, increase the price. It's also make sure you're efficient. Your time is on, like the time that your technician takes is on time. The time that it takes for your office staff to input documents. You don't want them to be on the phone with your supply house for 30, 40 minutes when you have 5, 6 calls coming in, because that's however much or whatever the lost call sheet tells you you're losing. That could be $5,000 a call. That could be a $20,000 job that you just lost because your admin is on the phone.
Time management is a huge part of profitability. If you're not managing your time or your technicians are not being efficient, you're literally throwing that money out the window. And I can tell you, we've had jobs where we were not as profitable as we should have been because the install went over, whether that be related to a issue they ran into on the job, delivery of parts not coming in fast enough. There's so much that you can't control when it comes to time management, but by doing the work and figuring out if your profitability by job costing, you're able to identify that exact root cause of what happened. I can then go back to those technicians and say, well, if this job was bid for 8 hours, why did it take you 12? And then I can understand, okay, they ran into a brick wall that they weren't able to drill a hole fast enough. It took longer than expected. Yes.
And y'all will be hitting 5 years in 26.
Yes.
So knowing what you know now, 5 years ago, what would you have told yourself to make sure you were doing great in profit and pricing?
I would have paid more attention to the business itself and the expenses of the business and understanding where those expenses fall. Had I understood that back then, I would have been able to price better, and I wouldn't have spent, the first year and a half making very little profit. The first year to 2 years, we were maybe averaging 5% net profit. If I knew what I knew now and I priced better back then, we would probably be much farther along in revenue now. I probably would have been able to hire a heck of a lot sooner than what I actually did. One thing that I wish somebody would have told me, I wish I would have been able to find a mentor back then. Somebody who understood running a business and didn't make you feel insignificant or stupid by asking some questions. So one thing I really like to do is, as I've hired some people in my office and freed up some of my time, I really like to mentor other business owners just starting out. Because if I would have known everything I know now, we would be in a totally different situation.
Man, you answered my next question. I was going to ask you what are you going to do in the next 5 years, but yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I would rephrase to say for the past 5 years, I've been in it since I was 14, but I've only been controlling the business for 2. But 2 years ago, if I could have told myself, learn what it means to be profitable. Learning what it means to be profitable then means you can be profitable. That would be the biggest thing that I would say for myself before, because I didn't know what profitable was. Again, I thought I was 10% profit margins when I actually was 2%. Yep. And then I'm going to back you on the thing for the next 5 years. Talk to people. Learn from other people. Because when me and you started talking, I was half the size of your company, or 2/3 the size of your company. But just in a year, not only have you shared stuff with me, but I've shared stuff with you. And the mindset shift you get from everybody else around you is an amazing thing, an amazing feeling that you have. And you can learn so much, even from the most new person, or even an apprentice that you hire on. They could teach you something. So always be willing to learn, and learn from people that are where you want to be at.
Always ask questions. You are who you associate with. So we became a super pro in 2024. And that was probably one of the biggest changes for me, because it allowed me to be a part of some of the different meetings that House Call Pro offers, which is how I met you. What would you say to somebody watching this, or in those super pro meetings? Would you suggest that somebody just sits back and listens, or be active in reaching out to people like you and I?
1000% reach out. Like, don't sit there and be quiet. Just like in your business, you want to scream from the mountaintop, help me, help me, help me. Or say, hey, look, I've been through that situation. Because the Super Pro office hours and the office hours, which is not just the basic one, anybody can join. It is something where pros and super pros come together and we talk about our problems. They have, 2 people at most that are actually House Call Pro employees, and the rest are people who use the software day in and day out. There's things that I have been on the blue chat bubble or on hold with House Call Pro for hours or days on end because they would close down or they'd do this. But reaching out into that community and talking to you, Cheyenne, the community super pro director, and all these other people in those office hours or the meetings has allowed me to take my growth from here to here. Just because it's not waiting, it's sitting there and getting that information.
I can tell you, in one one of the Super Pro meetings, I believe it was Chris Olson, if my memory is correct. He was talking about how he had door hangers that said sorry for the noise, and he would have his employees go put them on like the surrounding 5 houses. And I implemented that right away. I was like, that is a fantastic idea. And there for a while, we were meeting, you and I were meeting separately from any of the Super Pro office hours, like once or twice a week, sharing different documents or different things we learned, things that work for us. Or if you take even now, if you take a training, you'll send me whatever it was that you were trained on and vice versa.
Don't be afraid to give, because you will get 1,000%. You will give so many things, but you will get one mindset shift a week or one a month that will change your whole company for the better. And you just have to reach out.
And don't be afraid of that.
Yes, don't. Put your email in. Say, hey, look, if anybody's in the same industry as me, I put my email out there on the meetings and I say, hey, look, if anybody needs anything, I'm in HVAC, here's my email, reach out to me. I'll respond when I can. It might not be immediately, but I'm going to respond. And Amber does the same thing, and we've offered almost every single time on those meetings, hey, look, if you need anything, we'll hop on a Zoom.
Yeah.
Like, we don't mind. And that's what the whole community is about. They want to help. So use the tools.
For support applying these pricing strategies or using tools to analyze your numbers, head to the breakout rooms. Our team is ready to help you put this into practice.